All right, before we get started, I'm just going to tape all of these wires out of the way so that we don't get glue all over them. All right, before we get started covering this piece, I want to talk to you a little bit about suede first. So if you're covering your headliner or anything else in suede, you need to be aware that suede has a direction. It's called a nap. Why it's called nap, I don't know. But basically, if you've ever noticed when you touch suede and you push it one direction, it kind of changes colors because the fibers stand up. And when you push it the other direction, all the fibers lay down and it changes colors. Now, we need to be aware of this when we're wrapping our pieces because we want all of our pieces to be going in the same direction, because if you have some parts of your interior where that are butted up next to each other and the nap is going in opposite directions of each other, the color is actually going to look different, and you don't want that. So we need to be aware of the direction that we're laying down the suede on all of our pieces. And for me, the way I always do it is I always lay the nap laying down going towards the back of the car. For me, kind of the easy way to remember is kind of stupid, but is like a more aerodynamic. When you're driving the car, the direction you want the fibers to lay down going towards the back. That's just what's always easier for me to remember. Doesn't really matter which direction you put it as long as they're all going in the same direction. So just remember to make sure, be aware of it when you're doing that. Sometimes what I'll do is I'll even draw, some sort of chalk mark or something on the fabric that I'm using and on the actual pieces that I'm covering, just so I'll remember which direction I need to lay the fabric on these pieces when I'm wrapping them, so that I won't forget, because I've definitely forgotten and I've definitely messed up, and you don't notice until you put the piece inside the car and you're all done and you're looking and you're like, wait a minute, why is that one piece so much darker than the rest of the interior? And then you realize, and you don't want to make that mistake, trust me. So just try and remember that. I'm just going to cover up my table with some cardboard really quick to protect it from all the glue we're going to be spraying. So right now I'm just trying to get the headliner material centered up on here, and I have it going in the right direction that I want it. So that's looking good there. Okay, so I'm going to do this a little bit differently than I normally would. Normally right now what I would do is I would cut off the material from the roll that we don't need, and I would start gluing this down and it just go straight from there and everything would be all smooth. But because I'm a little bit worried about this headliner because it has so much different shapes and contours in it, I'm kind of concerned that I'm not going to be able to get everything stretched down into this area right here perfectly the way I want it. We might have to put a seam here. I'm not sure. I really don't want to, and that's why I'm going to try first. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to attempt to do this area first right here, and if we screw up, then basically I'm just going to cut this off here, and we still have all that material down here that we can use. If I went ahead and cut this off from the roll right now and say we did mess up in this one little 1 foot section, then this whole other section is completely wasted because it's too short for what we need to do at that point. So I'm going to try this. I think I might be able to do it because I did do a little test piece earlier. This is one thing I recommend you guys do also. If you're not sure about your headliner, and if it's like this and it's a little bit difficult, it's got all these shapes and stuff, what I recommend doing is just cutting off a scrap piece, or if you have a scrap piece laying around or whatever, and testing it out. I actually glued this piece into this section here, and I got it actually pretty darn good, exactly how I would actually want it. And then after I did that, and I decided I was going to attempt to do it this way on the whole headliner without putting any seams, I pulled it back off and I had to clean off the foam and everything. But at least I got a plan, because when you're doing this, you can take this piece around and go into different sections and stretch it and pull it and try to, you know, sort of come up with a plan on how you're going to attack one certain section of your headliner, like this one, for example. Now, a lot of headliners, they're not this difficult. A lot of them don't have this much contour and everything on them, and you can knock this out in 20 minutes on a really easy one. But one like this, you're going to have to really think about it a lot. We're going to need to use a ton of steam on this to get the fabric to go into the shapes that we want. Pretty much what I figured out that I'm going to have to do here, if I am going to make it work, right here in this area right here, I'm going to have to stretch it a whole lot to get it to kind of take the shape without it getting any weird little creases. Because what seems to be happening right here in the corners when I'm trying to wrap this is it folds too much and it gets these funky little creases in there, and I don't like how that looks. So what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to really stretch it a lot right there in this whole corner right here. Because if you think about it, your fabric gets flat like this, and you have to basically make it form into these areas that aren't flat. So it actually needs to stretch. So your fabric naturally wants to lay flat like this, and you have to make it stretch down into that shape and take that shape without having any wrinkles or anything like that. So that's where we're going to run into some difficulty here. But we're going to try it. I'm probably not going to talk a whole lot because I'm going to be concentrating really hard when I'm doing this section. But I'll definitely have all the cameras so you guys can see really good angles on what I'm doing. And yeah, so let's give this a shot and see if we can make it happen. All right, so I'm using Weldwood Landau Top contact cement. And that's what I recommend you use for everything. You can, they do sell some stuff in a spray can that will work, but I really recommend using this stuff. It's a lot better. It's much less expensive to use this as well. And I also just have some in a can here with a paintbrush. I'm going to use this for any spots that I don't want to use with the spray gun. For example, in some of these corners right here where I'm worried about there being a lot of tension, I'm going to use the paintbrush and just give a really nice solid line of contact cement here to really allow the material to grab on right there. All right, we'll go ahead and let this tack up for about 5 to 10 minutes and let it dry, and then we're going to be ready to start sticking this down. So one of the really nice things about this contact cement is if you use it properly and you allow it enough time to dry, you can actually lay it over top of itself and it doesn't stick. You see, you can reposition it and pull it off and it doesn't stick, it doesn't pull off the glue. When it sticks is when you push it together. When you really press it together, that's when it sticks, and that's when you can't take it back off. It's stuck where it is, and it works really, really well like this. So just keep that in mind. All right, I'm gonna give this a shot. The first thing I'm gonna do is stretch the material down into this little corner here, and then I'm gonna try and work it up around all of these areas here. And then I'm probably gonna come back and glue the rest of this and try and get everything to lay smoothly around here, and then I'll come back over here and finish this up. I think it might change in the moment. We'll see. Sometimes you gotta kind of play it as it goes. And I got my steamer going nice and hot, ready to heat this fabric up for us. And you see that crease right there? That's what I'm trying to avoid. That's what I didn't like. That's what was worrying me on this here. So I'm gonna see what I can do to make that not happen. And you just really want to take your time when you're doing this kind of stuff. You know, this glue, it will stay, you know, they say it will stick to itself up to 2 hours after you spray it. I don't know if that's necessarily true, but it definitely works for quite a while, so you don't have to worry too much about sticking it down before it dries, because it's already dry. It sticks to itself when it's dry. All right, so I'm really liking how that's looking there. Anytime you get these wrinkles from folding over the fabric, a lot of times you can just steam them out and stretch them a little bit and they'll come right out. Okay, so I think now what I'm going to try and do is get it to lay flat down in this little area where the sun visor sits now. We've got all these funny, you know, wrinkles here in this area because we put so much, you know, stretch on the fabric here that it's kind of trying to move all this fabric in an interesting way. So we're gonna have to figure out how to get that all out of here, and this steam is really gonna help us for sure. What we're really trying to do with the steam here is just get the fabric to relax. Once it's pressed down into those areas that we want it to relax as much as possible so that it will take that shape and that it's not trying to, you know, pull back away from the headliner board. All right, well, so far so good. Let's start to address this area right here. Out of steam. just making some relief cuts here to help let the fabric stretch around this area right here. You want to be really careful that you don't cut too far because you don't want to see it from the front. But this is just a really tight area right here, and any help we can give the fabric, it's going to make a big difference. So I'm just slowly heating this up and stretching it out and gluing it down as I'm going, and I'm just really taking my time, allowing the fabric to relax as much as I can get it to, and then coming back, making more relief cuts as I go. Holy cow, guys. Everything's looking really good. I'm actually really surprised we were able to make this happen. I'm super excited about this. There's a few wrinkles back here that I don't really like, but I can see that when I fold the fabric around to the backside, those are all pretty much going to go away. And also this is up against the windshield and you're not going to be able to see this area here, so I'm totally okay with that. All right, so now we got to do the whole rest of this thing, and we still got a lot of work ahead of us, but man, this was definitely the hardest part. So I'm super happy that this came out as good as it did. So let's keep going. So now our next challenge, it's definitely going to be this other sort of pod here in the middle, but I think it's going to be much easier than the one we just did. So we're just going to have to be careful. We're going to want to make sure that we arrive at this with everything nice and square. So we got to make sure when we're coming down this side here that we pull in everything nice and even on from side to side. Okay, so I'm not going to worry too much about gluing down inside this area until I get the whole thing covered, because I'm going to come back after everything's in place and we'll cut out the center, and that's going to allow the fabric to be able to stretch down into this a little bit easier. But first I want to make sure that we arrive over here where we need to be first, because if I go and start pulling everything down in here, it's going to take the fabric from over here, and it might make this more difficult for us. So right now my main concern is making sure we arrive at this area with the fabric nice and even for us so that we're able to do a good job covering this. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to glue up to about here on both sides and lay the fabric in, and then we'll start to work on this area right here. With these little pods here for the, these are for those handles. What I was noticing is when I was playing with these, with that little scrap piece of fabric, what you don't want to do is you don't want to just push all the fabric in there and then glue the fabric to the top. You want some tension on these. What I was noticing, if you allow just all the fabric to go down in there, you end up with a bunch of wrinkles because there's actually too much fabric. So you have to stretch this a little bit. So what I'm going to do when I lay this over, I'm just going to push down like in the center here. Just allow enough little fabric to go like right around in the center here, and then I'm going to glue this on the outside, and then I'm going to stretch it into this pocket here, and that's going to make it so that the fabric, you know, has just enough to where it can stretch down and take that shape, but it doesn't actually have a bunch of wrinkles in there. Okay, so that part made me a little bit nervous right there, actually. I had too much fabric here in the middle, and I don't know if you noticed what I was doing there. I was steaming it, and then I was hitting it with the heat gun, and what that was doing is it's putting the moisture into the fabric, and then you're drying out the fabric really quick, and that actually sometimes can shrink the fabric. So what I did here was I shrunk up the fabric as much as I could. It really helped a lot with the wrinkles that were right here in these corners, and it took up enough of this fabric to the point where I was able to get this to go in smoothly. So I'm really happy how that came out. I think we're on the home stretch here. This was the second hardest part that I was worried about. The rest of it should be pretty straightforward from here on. Not necessarily super easy, but definitely easier than these two sections that we were doing here. So let's keep moving forward. I'm just steaming out all the wrinkles that are in our headliner material here from when we had it rolled up while we were working on everything over here. All right, now I'm just going to finish folding over this front and rear edge because there's no trim pieces that hold this, so this needs to have a nice finished edge from looking at it from the outside. So I'm going to do that right now, and then we can trim off the excess. All right, now I'm going to finish up this little area here for the sunroof. Okay, now we can go ahead and finish up trimming off all this extra material. We're going to cut out all of the holes for everything that's in this headliner. We're going to reinstall our brackets for our lights here, and we're going to be ready to go move on to the next thing. This came out super good. I'm really pumped. Okay, now I'm just going to reinstall these brackets for the lights. Okay, so I'm just going to adjust these tabs to make this one a little bit easier for us. Okay, so we're all finished covering this headliner board. The only thing we need to do now is we need to cover the sunshade, and we need to recover all those other panels that we took off, that we're putting suede on those as well. Now, before we move on, I just want to talk to you guys a little bit about where I got all the supplies to do this job. I bought them all from ALBRIGHT'S Supplies, and I just wanted to talk a little bit about them because when I first started making these videos, I was getting so many questions from you guys about where do I buy my supplies? Where do I get my supplies from? Where can I buy supplies for myself and all of that? And the problem was I didn't have anywhere to send you guys because I was buying all of my stuff from wholesalers, and the wholesalers typically will only sell to businesses. And the problem is 90% of you guys out there that are watching this don't have a business, and you're just doing this on your personal car. So I needed to find a place, a retail place online that I could send you guys to. So I reached out to all my friends in the upholstery industry, and pretty much everybody pointed me to ALBRIGHT'S Supply. So I started using them, and I was testing them out for a little while, and I gotta tell you, I really like them. Their customer service is great. They have free shipping on orders over $150, and they're just a really great place to buy pretty much any supply that you're gonna need for any upholstery job that you're gonna be doing. So I will be honest with you, they're not actually sponsoring any of these videos, but if you buy something through the link in the description below this video or on my website, theluckyneedle.com, they do give us a tiny percentage of that sale whenever you guys buy something through them, through that link. Now, like I said, for me, that was definitely not the intention of telling you guys about ALBRIGHT'S Supply. By far, the most important thing for me is to send you guys to a place that I can trust and you guys will be happy with. And at the end of the day, that's who I believe you guys should shop with to buy any of your supplies that you're going to be doing with these jobs. But all that being said, I got to eat too. I know I'm a skinny guy, but I do eat a lot, and food at the grocery store isn't getting any cheaper. So I got to make a little bit of money somehow. And plus, it really helps me make more videos for you guys so I can show you all this cool stuff that we're doing here. So make sure you guys head over there. If you want to use the link below, I will super appreciate it. If you want to go straight to their website, it's www.albrightsupplies.com. Make sure you check it out. One of the other things that I really liked about ALBRIGHT'S is that their prices are basically the same as the wholesale places that I was shopping at, which I found to be super important, that they will sell to anybody and not just somebody with a business, because I've noticed that a lot of retail upholstery supplies out there, they really jack their prices up compared to what they should be, compared to, you know, what you can get at a wholesale place. And ALBRIGHT'S doesn't do that. They definitely take care of their customer. All right, now we're gonna move on. I'm gonna show you how to cover the rest of these pieces, and we're gonna wrap this baby up. All right, if you like that video and you wanna see another one, make sure you click to your right here. And don't forget about all the courses we have available at The Lucky Needle. Click here in the corner to get more information, and don't forget to subscribe right here.